Hey guys, welcome back to the first official mock live stream video that I used to do these a lot back on the old, technically old channel, where we just talk about Star Wars completely off the rails, unmodulated. We're not limited to one topic. It's not really a formal video, but I just thought, hey, might as well do it. It's the 4th, why not, I don't think it's gonna be that long, but yeah. Anyways, because stupid YouTube, they don't let me live stream, because they're like, you're a minor, you can't live stream. I'm like, dude, I don't know what being a minor has to do with live streaming. I see all these kids on YouTube live streaming all the time. I'm like, it's definitely Disney being like, this kid cannot talk. It's crazy. The amount of crap they do to my channel, it's absurd. It really is. It is crazy, the stuff they block and stuff. It's ridiculous. Yeah, so I guess we'll just chill, but I definitely have one thing I want to talk to you about, and I've had 5 to 6 people ask me, what are your thoughts on the show? You're not talking about it, blah, blah, blah. The Acolyte. Oh boy. Yes, I've been watching it weekly as it's coming out. Dude, that show is so bad. So bad. And I am telling you, this makes me miss the Kenobi show. Dude, that is how bad this show is. It makes me miss Book of Boba Fett. Because at least, there's Ewan McGregor, and there's Tamora Morrison, and there's Darth Vader, and there's Luke Skywalker. At least there's characters that I can watch the show and somewhat enjoy, seeing them. This show is just crap on every aspect. And the people defending it, they don't even have reason. They don't even have reasonable claim for their arguments. And I'm like, why are you even arguing with me then? You don't have facts. You make things up. You change your views on canon with every episode. First you say how Legend sucks, then you start mouthing off about Cortosis, and you start mouthing off about Ancient Sith and Darth Plagueis and Tenebrae. I'm like, all this stuff is from Legends. Disney doesn't include any of this in their canon. But then when it comes down to Ki-Adi-Mundi's age, which is officially released in the Phantom Menace movie guide, which was released alongside the film, and George administered it, therefore it is George Lucas Star Wars, they say, oh, it's not canon. Why do some of you have to defend everything when you know it is blatantly incorrect? If you enjoy the show, that is great. I'm glad you are getting satisfaction out of the experience of watching Leslie Headland's creation. I'm glad. I'm glad that you've found a way to enjoy it. And if you do, great. However, I think this fundamentally goes against George's philosophy in every single way. In every single aspect. There is zero George Lucas in this. This isn't Star Wars. People don't know the difference between Disney Star Wars and Star Wars. They are two fundamentally different things. And when you watch and study the first 6 movies, and you see how the movies are shot, and you see how the movies sound, and you see how the movies look, and you see the pace of them, this is simple film stuff that's not hard to comprehend. Then you get into the story, and you see how he writes his characters, and how you're always thrown into, a situation, right? You're never left to, wait the whole time. For the main, event to occur. You're thrown into the main event at the start of the movie. There's no build-up. The build-up is in the crawl. That's why the crawl exists. that's one thing fundamentally that Disney has not done at all. Like, it is bad. Like, look at Andor. That is so not... There's no really big event in that show, you know? It's just like, they're in a prison, I guess you could argue, and then there's the Ferrix thing, but there's no ultimate pivotal point for Cassian in that whole season, and it's like, what? Anyways, so, yeah, you just look at that on its own, and you look at, in Star Wars, if you know, you'll notice, characters... It follows the main story the entire time, and you never cut away. That's how Star Wars is. For example, A New Hope. We start focusing on who? The rebels. A blast hits the wall. We turn into the hallway, and it's the droids. Now we follow the droids the whole time. Then what? We get like a shot of Vader to see the threat. We're back to the droid. It's always main action. We're not cutting from the Tantive to Tatooine, to the Tantive, to no, we're on the Tantive the whole time, till the droids shoot down the escape pod. We never see the Tantive again. We're on the ground. I think. Yes, and then you're on the ground and you're following the droids the whole time, through the desert. They split up, you follow each of their paths. They get to the Jawa Sandcrawler. Then you follow them from the Sandcrawler to Luke, and that's how we meet our main character, which in a way C-3PO and R2 are the main characters in that movie, but that's up for interpretation. You know, Luke is the hero of the story. So you go to Luke. Now, Luke's already there. We don't cut to him ever. The droids and Luke meet, therefore we transition to following Luke. After that, you know? Now it's a Luke movie. Then we follow Luke the entire time without ever cutting away. That's how Star Wars is. That's one example. You know, in episode 1, we never cut away from Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. You know, we're following them the whole movie. Obviously, they're not in every shot or every scene, but they're the main course of action. The plot doesn't divot, ever. Revenge of the Sith, we are never divoting off of Anakin and Obi-Wan. Anakin and Obi-Wan, either of them are always relevant the entire time. And we meet new characters along the way. You don't cut to them. So it's like, for example, we meet Luke through R2 and 3PO. Right? We don't have a whole explanation of who Luke is, where he came from, whatever. You're thrown into it. They just meet each other. Then, you know, eventually they run into Ben Kenobi during the Tusken Raiders scene. Then you Ben bumps into Chewie in the cantina with Luke, and then he joins the crew. Then Han joins the crew. You know, then Leia joins the crew, etc. It just builds and builds and builds. That is the fundamental structure of how Star Wars is done. Same with Jar Jar. You know, they're running through the Naboo forest with the MTT following behind. Qui-Gon grabs Jar Jar to save his life. Now he's part of the crew because we met his character along the way. Like, there is a structure to Star Wars that makes it exciting, entertaining, and mysterious, which is a level of Star Wars that Disney has lost completely, because the mystery of Star Wars is we don't know absolutely everything about every character, right? Because we aren't watching them since they're, you know, it's not an origin story, really. You're following them from the beginning of their hero journey. You're not following them from when they were little to, you know, their beginning of their hero's journey, then their heroes. Like, that's not how it's structured. It's not like the Dark Knight trilogy where that's structured. You know, you see Bruce as a kid, then you see him as a teenager training with Ra's al Ghul. You know, if it were done like Star Wars, we would have started with him as Batman, right? But that's a different trilogy, so, you know, they did a different way. But Star Wars, you're never supposed to follow that kind of... There's not a lot of exposition, and that's the problem with, you know, Acolyte especially, is there was a whole flashback episode when that's completely irrelevant to the story, and like, we started here, we don't need to go back. Like, you should leave that mysterious. Like, where did they come from? Then later on in, like, books or another show or another season, then you can go back and kind of explain it. That's how Star Wars is done. Like, it's just the truth. Like, there's no arguing. That is how those movies are. That's the structure, you know, and if you can't argue that with me, because it's just how it is done. That's how George has described it. That's how it is done in the movie, if you pay enough attention, you know? Rogue One was like that too. You follow Jyn the entire time. And she bumps into Andor, she bumps into K2SO, she bumps into Chirrut. Solo's the same way. You follow Han the whole time. You know, like, the simple structure things is what keeps the pace of Star Wars as perfect as it is. You know, you're not wasting time anywhere in a half an hour discussion or a useless chase, you know, where they're all running around and for the entire episode. Like, Acolyte episode 6. Horrible. And I'm telling you, dude, like, there was nothing happened. Like, I can't even tell you one thing that happened. It's just May is with Sol and Osha's with Kamir, and that's it. Like, we don't need that long on those plot points, because that's not how Star Wars is made, right? Like, there's these fundamentally simple things that this show, The Acolyte, and most of Disney Star Wars just is not nailing. And it's so much easier to just show you in this show because it's so bad. It's like at a level where you can't defend or even justify saying that, you know, this feels like George Lucas art. No, it doesn't. It is in a totally different universe. To me, this is not this, you know, like, there's no way. Come on, like, you can't argue that with me. It's just not. And that's one thing, you know, structure-wise, this show doesn't feel like Star Wars at all. I haven't even gotten into how stupid the writing is in general. Or the choreo was really good. It looked really good, right? Until you slow it down. And you see the amount of openings that Kamir had to kill the Jedi, and he just lets them go. There's a scene where Yord's on the floor, you know, and Kamir easily could have killed him. But he stares over at Osha, who isn't even a Jedi. You know, he's willing to risk a Jedi who knows of his existence living and escaping, rather than leaving some weird random mechanic girl that no one cares about from leaving and escaping. Like, what sense does that make when he literally says 2 minutes before, or I guess actually later, but still it's relevant, he has the same thoughts. Like 2 minutes later, he goes, "Oh, I'm a Sith and now every one of you have to die." Why the heck would you have let Yord just sit there then? Multiple times, by the way. It's like, what are you doing? He had like 1 billion openings on Sol. The Jeki battle lasted way too long. There were so many openings for that. And he's not like a cocky guy, you know? He seems like he's just evil and he gets the job done, which I thought that was cool at the beginning, you know? I was like, this guy, he's just going through all the Jedi. He's not doing his stupid obnoxious Sith stuff, you know, where Vader's very cocky and arrogant and like kind of teases his opponents. That's not how this guy is. Like, Kamir is not. From the way they set him up, he's not like that. He's just evil and wants an apprentice. That's his old goal, right? And they don't keep his character consistent for one episode. Like, I don't understand how she writes her own characters and she can't even keep them consistent. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Then he goes from trying to kill May to sparing May. And it's like, when he was trying to kill her, he force pushes her, easily could have stabbed her. Nope. He just looks at her and waits for Sol to attack. Like, it's bad writing. And I feel like that's more the writing side than the choreo side. But I don't even know, dude. The choreo, there were a lot of times where he could have struck, you know, like I don't think, or there are a lot of times where, you know, the Jedi, when he was fighting like 5 Jedi once, the Jedi could have easily gone in and taken him out, like, instantly. But they wait there and they flourish. And I'm like, what are you doing? When you watch Duel of the Fates, like, Qui-Gon strikes, Obi-Wan goes in. Qui-Gon strikes, like, there's never a moment where they're not attacking or sitting. And the only time they are is if Maul's blade is angled towards Obi-Wan and where he's, you know, can't attack Maul. You know, then once Maul moves to attack Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan goes in, Maul deflects. Like, that is good choreography. Then you have this crap, which it isn't crap, I guess, because Disney's done worse. It looks really, really good in full speed, but they cheated, you know? Like, it's not... When you slow it down, it's not as good as it looks, you know, and that's the unfortunate, and it shows they weren't, you know, they were just cheating the whole time, really. But am I gonna be like, oh, the duel was lame, it sucked? No, man, like, that was really cool to see him slaughter those Jedi like that, and for Yord to die, I was like, thank you, dude. The stupid Yord Horde people, man, they can all go cry that Yord died. Like, who cares about Yord? Like, he was in the show... There was nothing likable about him. Like, what do you mean? It's just because Disney ships them tissues, and then they're like, oh, I'm a Yord fan. Yeah, you're a Yord fan because Disney shipped you tissues. You're like, I want more free tissues. Dude, these people. Anyways, that's a whole nother thing, is the aggressive response to this show from those people is insane. Which I've said before is, I think what the meeting was about was to tell them to mobilize against fans who don't like the show. So, yeah, that's a whole nother thing. But, yeah, the fight was cool, but when you slow it down, it's not, you know, Nick Gillard even said the whole Force Foo thing is stupid. He was on a Star Wars Theory, like, vlog video, and he said that he's seen clips of the Force Foo thing, and he said it's trash. So I'm like, this is what I'm saying, dude. These people who know better than them, like, they're not blindly ignorant and saying how great everything is. That's the thing. Like, it's unfortunate, like, what the heck they're doing to that show. Like, I remember seeing it announced, and they're like, we're gonna do, here's another thing, a show centered around Sith. And then I'm floored, because I'm like, dude, this is gonna be, I'm thinking Old Republic, you know, where they're on Korriban, well, I guess in canon, Moraband, and, you know, it's like that weird, just opposite of Jedi, like culty feel, and they have their red sabers and they're dueling each other to the death. They're apprentices, you know, and the masters are watching, and they go on like these brutal missions together, and they slaughter Jedi. I'm like, this is what I'm looking for, man. Like, Old Republic. That's all I wanted, man, was this show to be like that. Then I knew the second they said it in the High Republic, and the second they said it's 100 years before Phantom Menace, all of that just drifted. And I'm like, it's gonna be another show where they cannot focus on a villain. Like, they just can't do it. Disney cannot do it. They always end up having their villains being gray or good. They cannot have their main character villains ever just be bad people. And I don't get why. I don't understand. Look at Revenge of the Sith. George did it. You know, it's been done, and you can do it. You know, it's like, it's not that hard. You just, or look at Todd Phillips' Joker. That was done beautifully well, and it is an amazing film. And the villain is a villain. He is not a good guy, but it still delivers a powerful story, you know? And it's like, why can't they do that? They have so much talent. I don't get it. I don't understand why. This is a Jedi show, a High Republic Jedi show. This is not a Sith show. It's clickbait. The entire show is clickbait. They clickbaited that whole thing. They clickbaited Kalnaka, which they were heavily promoting, and he just is dead. We never see him use a saber ever. They cut that fight out of the show. We just see him growl at people, and that's the end of it. And then he's dead 2 episodes later. Then we see, what's her name? Indara just dies the first episode, and she was clickbaited heavily. All their main characters are dead. And it's like, I don't care about them, but to an extent, if you're marketing all these people, and you don't even develop them, and then you just kill them, like, no one is gonna want to buy merchandise or anything about those characters or know more about them. Because you never got to love them, like Anakin, where you had 1, 3 years, 2, 3 years, and then 3, right? And you had, like, 12 years to get to know Anakin's character, and 3 long movies that were centralized on Anakin. And you got to know about him, more about him and his journey and his character, and you got to study and understand. And it's like, if you want that level of connection, you don't just kill them. Like, that's the thing, is they're always like, oh, we want to make new characters that are really interesting. Like, then don't just kill all of them, and don't have them encounter a Sith Lord. That's the thing, oh god, the whole show, it's a train wreck, dude. It's a train wreck. Because it's like, I say that, but then at the same time, they can't fight a Sith Lord and live. But then that wouldn't, if we followed the Jedi, it wouldn't be a Sith show. It's like, oh god, it's such a mess. Oh my goodness, dude. That show is, there's nothing good about that show, man. And the only reason I at first was like, oh, those first 2 episodes are a good start, because I thought that was the prologue. And it served as a prologue. I was like, things are really gonna pick up. No, they didn't. They just tanked. Episode 5 wasn't a good, episode at all. Like, all it was fight the Sith, but we cut to May and Osha 70 times in the middle of the fight, which infuriated me. I was like, stay on the fight. We don't even get to see the first initial response to the Kamir's force push. His crazy force push that we've never seen before. We cut to May first. And I'm like, what? Or Osha, I don't know, who cares? Same boring character. And it's like, dude, why? Like, what is the point? It's... Also, they don't know how to direct Star Wars. The characters aren't moving like Star Wars characters. They're not talking like Star Wars characters. You could tell in the first episode, I remember Soul's weird speech was written horribly. And I was like, I could tell this is Leslie trying to be like, oh my gosh, I know so much about how Jedi speak and how... No, you don't. It was so just not poetic. She's trying to be so poetic. And I'm like, this is not... Like, it was corny, this is nothing against Lee Jung-jae. That guy is a legend, dude. Like, the fact that the amount of work he put... It's so sad, because the amount of work he put into Soul for this show is crazy. He, learned English for Soul. So none of this is about him, that. I'm trying to make that clear. That guy is amazing. And I love that guy. I have nothing against him. It's her writing that is so bad that she makes him say, and it's like, it's not there. But then the rest of the show, oh my, yeah. So as you clearly tell, there is not one aspect of this show that I like. It is just bad. I could go through every single episode and go through every detail that isn't right. From the costumes, which look horrible and cheap, to the humongous lightsabers that apparently aren't done on purpose for canon, and were done so that they're basically Sabi's blades, to simplify that. They're really thick to fit the electronics. Yeah, so I don't know where the 180 million went, guys. Like, really, do we have Neos that are 1-to-1 scale or close? And, you know, they light up super bright. So why couldn't we just, like, use those? Which they did in Ahsoka. Which is why the sabers didn't look terrible in that show. Because they literally... I'm convinced they used Neos for Ahsoka and Mando. I think they did. Like, they are too similar looking. I know they used TXQ's Anakin saber in Ahsoka. I do know that. That is a fact. But I wouldn't be surprised if they used other Neos, like Luke, a NeoPixel of Luke's and Mando. Like, it really wouldn't surprise me. But they looked really good. And then... in this show, they're just huge and really ugly, and they're really boring. Like, this is crap that I dropped when I was 5, dude. Like, they were in my little school notebook when I was bored, and I used to do that. Like, they're bad. They're huge, they are ugly, they're lame. You know, I just draw like a rectangle, you know, the simple saber design, draw it all black with a little thing on top. That's Kamir's saber. Like, they're not these elegant weapons, you know, in that show. They're just like these junky toys. Yeah, so horrible show. Abysmal. Like, it's a 0. At this point, I'm debating what's worse, whether it's this show or The Last Jedi. Like, honestly, it's that bad. And you know, you guys know how much I hate The Last Jedi and how Rian Johnson destroyed Star Wars with that one movie to an extent no one else has, probably other than this show, really. And that movie, at least the music is good. You know, that's another thing. There's no music that stands out from this show. It is so dry, and it's like, there's no big themes or anything, you know, like the Imperial March or, you know, Kylo's theme or the Force theme, whatever, Cross the Stars, etc. There's no piece that, you know, you stick to it, right? Like, it's just nothing. There's no good music. The fight music's good, but other than that, like, it's just so dry and, like, lame and horrible. And it's like, why aren't there big recurring themes? There's, like, a 2-note thing that plays for May, and that's it. And I'm like, well... okay, and it's not something that I'm gonna be desperate to go play on my piano downstairs because it's so majestic. No. Yeah, so, you know, The Last Jedi has the edge on music. It has the edge on saber design. It has the edge on vehicle design. The vehicles in this movie completely, and the Acolyte completely go against George's philosophies. The ships shouldn't be, you know, super silver and clean and nice. They should be a little scratched up, a little dirty. Even in Phantom Menace, which that was the pristine era, you could see the grooves and the, you know, mechanical pieces and the engines that look a little toasted on the N1s. In this show, they're all like pristine, clean. They look like Star Trek ships. So that's another issue. The ships look horrible. So The Last Jedi has an edge on the ships. The Last Jedi has an edge on acting. I guess The Last Jedi has an edge on the look of the lightsaber. Story-wise, they're both terrible, just in their own way. They destroyed Luke in Last Jedi, which is unforgivable. And then this show just destroyed Star Wars. So honestly, I don't even know. They're both garbage. They're both zeros. But it's like, which zero is worse? You know, like, they're just bad. But the fact I'm even debating that is ridiculous. You know, like, I shouldn't even be debating that. It's ridiculous. It's like laughable. Like, I literally started laughing last episode because there was this specific instance where May factory resets hip by holding 2 buttons down. Like, what? I didn't know it was that easy to just shut a droid off in Star Wars. R2, shut up. I'm gonna factory reset you, to wipe your memory. Like, why didn't Owen just do that? He's like, oh, Luke's asleep. I'm gonna go shut R2 down so that kid, Obi-Wan stuff doesn't get it. Like, why didn't he just do that? Why didn't they do that to 3PO in Revenge of the Sith right there? They're like, oh, and get the droid's memory wiped. Bail Organa could have been like, boop, memory wiped, and then we cut away. Like, what is that, dude? Like, no, it should not be, because droids are like, they're very human in Star Wars. They have personality, we care for them, they're like a sentient being in a way. And to just shut them off like that is such like a diss to droids, honestly. Like, what kind of droid discrimination is that? Like, oh, you shut up, boy, now I'm gonna shut you down. Like, what the heck? No, that was straight up disrespectful to droids, bro. I was like, what on earth? Oh, don't even get me started with the naked Khmer scene. Like, what was that about? That's, again, totally against George's philosophy, I don't even get who was like, yeah, let's do that, that's funny. Or the Yord shirt scene, like, this is not Star Wars. Like, I'm sorry, guys, it's not very arguable, and I've given you lots of reasons, and evidence too, not just reasons. I've given you evidence on how this doesn't align with George's vision, which George's vision is Star Wars and nothing else. There are projects that have followed George's vision pretty well, like Rogue One, Solo, and Mando. The first 2 seasons of Mando. They did a pretty good job of not straying away from that. Obviously, it's not perfect, but they did a pretty good job. Tales of the Jedi was like, George was there. That was amazing. That was I remember watching that and just the feel I felt. I had not felt that way since I probably finished Clone Wars, or I don't even know, like, probably since I saw, George's stuff for the first time. Like, that, the feel that I got from that show, no, probably from when I watched Clone Wars for the first time, that's probably what it was. Is that same feel to me. That was ridiculously good show. Yeah, crazy. Other than that, like, no, there were aspects from Ahsoka that did, and there were aspects of Ahsoka that absolutely did not, But that's the thing, guys. Like, there is factual evidence to support that this does not back up George's vision. And if you're gonna try to tell me it does, I'm unfortunately have to tell you you're wrong. And you should probably do a little homework before you try to correct me, because I've put 16 minus what? Minus 3? 16, 15, 14, 15. I've put 13 years of my life into understanding George's vision, and that's a lot of time, So I don't think it would be fair to try to, tell me I'm wrong, because I know I'm not. Like, it's I already explained, it's like, what, you can like the show. I'm not telling you can't like the show, but I'm saying you cannot tell me it's George's vision, because that is factually incorrect from every standpoint. And that's not, it's not debatable. It's not. You cannot walk up to me and try to debate that with me, because you will lose. Like, I've had people try to tell me, debate me on the Coyote thing, and that one, there's more evidence for you saying that his age isn't canon, because you look at it at this, like, bland standpoint of, It's not from past 2014. It's not canon. Well, George was pretty much writing that book and came up with that alongside other people. So that's George Star Wars. Therefore, it's embedded in the story. I don't know. Oh, what about the scene in Phantom Menace? The Sith have been extinct for 1,000 years. They jumped right over that and instead focused on the age. No, that's a plot issue. Coyote's in for this idea of a mysterious dark side user on the run, and he knows, and then says the Sith have been extinct for 1,000 years. And these idiots are so narrow-minded that they don't know what referring means. They don't know what referencing means. They don't know what synonym means. So they're like, they didn't say the word Sith. It's a dark side loser. And you know how much of an asshole Coyote Mundi is? That guy would have jumped to Yoda and been like, man, they were talking about a Sith Lord, and he would have snitched the whole crew and how they're disobedient to the Jedi. That's how he was. That is his character. Yes, I have studied Coyote Mundi. I know how he works. He would not just defy the council. He was one of the most, by the book, obnoxious Jedi there was. That guy did not break one rule his whole life. He did not consider any other viewpoint his whole life. That is Coyote Mundi. And it's like, that's how he is. When you read the comics, you watch the movies, that's how he is. And pretty much everyone does. Even people who like the Acolyte know how obnoxious he is. So, that makes zero sense, and that's not up for debate either. But if you want to say, well, he didn't, sure. I let people live in delusional worlds, a lot in conversation, because it's useless to argue with them. Because a lot of the time, delusional people won't, escape their delusion. Just like how I say, when I like Star Wars because of George Lucas's vision. Therefore, I only consider 1 through 6 true Star Wars movies. People are saying I'm delusional because I'm saying that 7 through 9 don't exist. And it's like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the Star Wars story that George Lucas wrote is Phantom Menace to Return of the Jedi. That is the main Star Wars story. The sequels are sequels to George's story. And I don't consider them Star Wars. I consider them Disney Star Wars, a totally different narrative. Guys, people try to argue with me all the time. All these shills. They attack theory. They attack me. They attack, a critical drinker. They attack all these people. They attack, anyone under the sun who doesn't like this show. And labels them toxic and one-way minded. They're just single-minded. They don't look at any other perspective. Do you know how many years I spent as a kid, trying to find a way to like The Last Jedi? Because as a kid, I felt there's no way Star Wars just made something bad. And that in my head, I could not let that happen. And I tried for years and years and years to find a way to make it good because I was 8 years old. And I just, at that age, couldn't accept it. I was like, there's no way. And I was just trying and trying and trying. Nothing did it. And then obviously, few years ago, no, more than a few, geez, it's been a long time. 2019? Yeah. 2019, 2020, I completely let it go. And it's like, I spent a long time trying to make that movie make sense to me, and it just doesn't in George's context, So to try to tell me that I'm so I look at everything, with such a dogmatic, narrow view. That's not fair, because I just told, like, this is what I do. I try. Like, I've tried to like these things, and my first instincts are correct. My gut is correct, It's just, to me, I just cannot lie to myself. But all these people, I don't get how you could say Star Wars and the Acolyte are the same thing. Like, they're not. They are not. I don't understand how people try to justify. What, because there's a lightsaber? That's it, dude. That's the only thing that you could argue makes this show feel like Star Wars. Oh, there was a Wookiee? Like, grow up. Look at the bigger picture. Look at how this franchise is more than planets and cool weapons. This franchise is a story. It is a universe. There are ideas and characters that we grew up with, all these things that we grew up with our whole lives. That when you spend time to learn the story, instead of just getting overhyped over faked fight scenes or a line of dialogue, you see how these things aren't fitting into the puzzle. There is factual evidence that this show is not Star Wars. And yet these guys just go at it and at it and at it. Why? Because all of a sudden, after the weird, random, suspicious Lucasfilm table meeting, all these people just start attacking. And they had never done that before. And when did it start? Right after the meeting. All those people who went DM'd other people who were on the edge and were like, hey, you should tell your followers this, this, and this. And I can't be like, if they, tried to convince them that if they did, they'd get to be invited to things. That's what was in their head for sure, but I don't know if the, shills who were at the round table meeting thought that way at all. Sent that to them in their messages. But there was definitely something that happened. They actively deny it, but, Dr. Disrespect also actively denies that he's a predator. So, and that he's that he sent images. He says, I never sent in images. Clearly he did. So yeah, like, and so does every Hollywood star who's involved with some weird cult. Also, factual evidence. You can go find images of the places. People still are convinced, no. Like, ignorance is bliss, guys. Like, this is what I'm saying. The shills sent their bots to attack real fans. Disney does not like white men. They don't want white men making their stuff. That's also confirmed. Factual evidence. There's a video. I have people who have in person tried to argue with me that it is edited in fake. When there is a full-ass clip online of them saying, there's no way we would consider a white male for this role. We are not actively hiring white males. What more evidence do you need? Or, dude, they've done it. O'Keefe has done it multiple times now. He did it with 2 other guys at Disney, too. And it's the same thing. Like, it's just racism on every account. In fact, one of them was that they don't hire non-white, non-Jewish people in their higher up corporate sector. That they just don't. That's also racist. Like, they are just a screwed company, man. And it's like, I'm just giving you examples of like just blatant evidence that people cannot and will not absorb ever. Because they are ignorant. Like, it's there. It's like me saying, I have a pencil in my hand right now, and you saying, that's not actually a pencil. It's not there. Look, it's a pencil. Do you see paper, mate? It's a pencil. That's how obvious those videos were about Disney. That's how obvious it is that this show is not George Lucas Star Wars. And these people, they're psychos. It's like they're hallucinating. They're like, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Look, see all these things? They're not there. And that's what makes me think something is going on. Is they are so delusional and so ignorant to an extent I have never seen, ever, in any other franchise. Marvel fans try to say every Marvel movie is a masterpiece. But most of them at some point admit that not every single Marvel movie is a masterpiece. Because they're not as delusional as these people. Right? These are the things that drive me completely insane. Because they don't like fact. They don't like reason. They like libel and fake news. Where are these guys' heads? Where are you? I'm not going to be mean and shout out names, which I really want to do, and I could. But it's crazy. It is crazy. You have no idea how much time I have put into understanding these movies, these stories, and every single damn character in these movies, down to Newt Gunray, to know George's vision. And these people try to tell me that I am not looking at it the right way. Really? Because the only thing I really consider Star Wars is this, these, and Clone Wars. Like, what is the deal? And Legends, of course, you know? That's my view. And my view is George Lucas impacted things are significantly better in reception and in legacy. All of these projects are remembered. Maybe not these two. You know, they're remembered, but like they won't have the legacy that Clone Wars and these 6 movies have. They won't. You know. But they're still very close to George's vision. That's why I respect them. But it's like, dude, you don't get George's vision. Just admit it. Please. I'm not even calling you a fake fan. I'm not. I'm telling you, you don't know George's vision if you're saying these things because it is factually backed up. I have looked at it from every stupid viewpoint you could possibly imagine because an 8-year-old was disappointed in the movie theaters. An 8-year-old disappointed at a Star Wars movie. Those words coming out of my mouth in 2005 would have been non-existent. They would have been like, what are you watching that... I was 8. I didn't care about story. I was an 8-year-old. And I didn't like The Last Jedi. I don't know what else you guys want, what else you guys need to just accept you do. Some of you, I'm not trying to say you guys watching, because you guys watching my channel probably know the stuff, because most of them just avoid us. But if there are any, what do you want me to do or say that can convince you that you are so misguided on the original vision for Star Wars? Because I have a feeling that you guys, you're not as big of a fan of what George made, and you're more big of a fan of like this random stew of all these different interpretations and takes on what George made. That's a different thing. So if you're in the pot of brew, in the brew, if you're a fan of the brew, fine, just accept it. You know, but if you're a fan of George's stuff, fine. And in fact, in my opinion, that is the only real Star Wars. That is the only real Star Wars with any ounce of real fans who put hours and years into this brand. These guys, you look at half the people going to the premieres, I click on their page, they just twirl sabers around. Or I clicked on this one girl's page, she doesn't even post about Star Wars. How are you going to you're not a fan, of George's stuff. You're a fan of this jumbled disaster, and you're a fan of being famous. And being, getting that spotlight on you. You're not a fan of, being a real, fan who dedicates so much time to this brand because it brings them so much joy and gets outed by society and their own community for caring about the brand. That is being a Star Wars fan. It is really diving into the story. To me, that is a Star Wars fan. If you say, oh, I saw, I saw the movies before. And I saw Rebels, and it was really good. Yeah. And I watched episodes. I'm a fan. Guys, fan to me is a big word. And I think this is because of the amount of crap I've gone through for being a Star Wars fan. And when you have these people who don't dive into the story, they don't try to look at it, they just look at sabers and are like, I like buying lightsabers because it gives me views. Why are you in? Oh yeah, by the way, I've only seen the last season of Clone Wars, and I don't really care about seeing the rest because it's all, I love watching 7 for the visuals, or I love watching the sequels for the visuals, and I don't really like the other ones because they look bad. Okay, you know what? You like Star Wars. I'm not gonna call you a fake because you enjoy Star Wars. But a fan is a title. That is a title. And especially Star Wars fan. That is a title that you have to earn. And that may sound weird, but it's the truth. You don't get to walk in here and trash on the people who've put 13 years of their life into this brand when you haven't even put equivalent to half a year into this brand. That's more what I mean. It's not fair, it is disrespectful, and it's ridiculous on every aspect. And I don't care who you are, how many followers you have, how many premieres you've gone to, that doesn't make you a fan. What makes you a fan is care. Care and putting time into this franchise. That is what makes you a fan. And knowing your stuff. You don't need to know every single character like me, but getting the fundamentals down simply makes you a fan. So that's what I have to say about that. It's genuinely ridiculous. The amount of people that know this about me and continue to argue. And it's like, I don't know if they're just being, like, confrontational on purpose. But you cannot argue with me on George's vision unless you are George himself, which I'd automatically be like, all right, well, that's his vision, obviously, because it's George. Or you know way more than me about George's vision, which is like 1% of the population. Then you can argue with me. But if you're just nonsensically care about this brand, and you go into every project, saying, oh, look, there's a lightsaber, it's a 10 out of 10. Don't argue with me. Because it's not worth my time and energy, neither is it worth yours. Like, that's ridiculous. Yeah, it's stupid. It's like, I don't care. Because look, that's like me saying, oh, I'm a big Power Rangers fan. I was a big Power Rangers fan. Yeah, when I was little, I bought the toys and I watched some of the shows. But would that give me the right to go and be like, oh yeah, by the way, everything you said about this character is wrong, and he'd be this way. Power Rangers is a kid's show, so that's not as fair as Star Wars, but still. That's the general point. Is me walking up to a guy who spent his whole life in Power Rangers, where I only spent one, not even one, in it, and going up to him and trying to correct him on characters and visions and what's right and wrong. That's unacceptable and screwed. That you cannot do that. You cannot try to, even worse, try to call people racist, try to call people homophobic, try to call people, one-minded, and try to call people cultish, and try to call people, pathetic, and try to call people all these just ists and phobes and everything under the sun because you know more about a brand than these people and they attack you for it. It's like, once you start doing that, you're not here to be a fan. You're here for your own gain. You are obsessing over a brand and a company for your own personal gain. And do you know what that definition is? A shill. That's the definition of a shill. So when I'm talking about shills, I'm talking about shills. I'm not talking about people who, like some of Disney's stuff. If you like some of Disney's stuff, great. I literally have zero issue with that. What I have an issue with is you coming out calling yourself a fan and trash talking fans who've spent, more than 10 years in this brand, when you haven't put the equivalency of even one in. That's not fair. You cannot do that, and I don't care. It's not about what you like, it's about how much time you've put in and how much you care about the brand. That's what really helps me define a fan, And, if you just can't, you can like what you like and don't like what you don't like, but don't try to correct people who have put so much time into the brand about little details that you know nothing about. That's, I guess, what I'm saying. Like, that's not fair. That's like if, What would be another example of that? Like if you went to some random kid in Africa and you were talking about the Constitution of Independence, and the African child goes, well, it doesn't say that in the Constitution of Independence. It actually says this and this, and technically this doesn't apply. It's the same equivalence. Like, you guys have no idea. We're the number one fandom in the world for a reason. Like, film fandom in the world for a reason, guys. Like, this isn't a joke. We're serious. We love these movies. This is not just a casual, oh, check it out. No. And I'm telling you, 10 years ago, none of these guys existed that didn't care about the brand. If you said you liked Star Wars, you liked Star Wars. Now, in these days, people say they like Star Wars, have only seen the movies once, and don't care about anything. You know, and that's, like, sketchy, you know? Like, I never used to have to deal with that, you know? Or have to hear people try to argue with me on facts. It's ridiculous. Like, go look it up. But, yeah, I felt this was definitely something we needed to talk about, because it is just so obnoxious, and I'm so over it. And it's like, I want to unfollow all these people and block them. Not block them. I don't want to block them, because then I'm just like the other side. I want to unfollow all these people so bad, but then at the same time, I want to see the crap they're saying. Because I've laughed sometimes, you know. I've been with my cousin and my friends, and we have laughed, cousins and friends, and we have laughed together about how ridiculous some of their comments are. It's absurd. And how these people say, you know, the only real Star Wars fans are the ones who like everything and appreciate everything for what they are. That is ridiculous. Like, you guys, you got no idea at how pathetic those people are, and fake those people are, and disrespectful those people are. You know, it's like, I try to be calm, cool, and collected about all of that. But at some point, I gotta just speak the truth, you know. And originally, I wasn't gonna talk about any of Disney stuff, which is true. I'm not gonna go review all the episodes and do all that. But at some point, I am going to, like, call out crap. Like I've done already. I did the Dave thing, which was ridiculous. And I'm doing this. Because it's just fair. It is so unbelievable. Also, if you've been hearing that, I probably should have said this earlier in the video. It's 4th of July when I'm recording this, so happy 4th to all my fellow Americans in here. Yeah, it's actually the 120th. 4th of July, which is super cool. We've had this awesome country for 120 years. That's wrong. Why does everyone saying 120th? 120th everything. Oh, never mind. That was a city thing. But anyways, you get the point. It's cool. I love this place. Beautiful country. But anyways, that's why you're hearing the boom boom, if you're hearing any of that. Yeah. Like that. Anyways, yeah, completely ridiculous. Those people aren't fans. You know, if you're going out and attacking people who you know are more educated than you, that's not fair. It's ridiculous. It's not okay. And I've said that a billion times. And again, I wish there was some more news to tell you, but there isn't. Like, everything is Acolyte and discourse on Acolyte. They're not doing anything else right now. So, yeah. So this was really what this video is about, is clarifying that crap and making it much clearer on my views. And lastly, if you're watching this saying, well, I've only been a fan for a year, and that's not what I'm not trying to make you guys feel bad if you care about the brand, but you've only been you're a newer fan for a year. That's not what I'm not trying to be all weird, but like if you're a developing fan, it takes time, you know, like to understand the story, but you know, I'm not saying that about you guys. I'm not trying to be nitpicky and, oh, you have to be a fan for this many years. No, man, that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is don't try to correct people who understand the story better than you. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, you know, like it's not cool, dude. And it's like, have your own opinions, speak them, but don't attack us. Like, it's not worth your time because we'll strike you down, right? Like I do every time. There's not been one argument with these guys that I've lost to date, you know? So it's like, don't even try anymore. But that's all I have to say. Yeah, this show is horrible. It's laughable and so bad. Just don't even. If you haven't seen it yet, just spare yourself, because that's the last thing you need is for Disney Plus to have more views and clicks. That's horrible. Yeah, so just enjoy George Star Wars, and you know, just enjoy the Star Wars you like. I wouldn't bother with Acolyte. That's ridiculous. Yeah, that's all I have to say. So, thank you guys for watching. Yeah. So I hope I wasn't, you know, I hope what I was saying was clear. Really. And if it isn't, you know, you watch it again, you'll get the point. Or go through it again, you'll get the point. So, yeah. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, and share. For content that isn't ranting, I don't do rants a lot. But I will give a couple when it's needed. So see you in the next video. And your focus determines your reality.